Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TTV podcast, episode number, I think, 332.
There you go. Yep, that's it.
Sweet.
Something like that.
Got it. Awesome. How's everybody doing this fine Saturday morning?
I'm
Pretty
tired.
Good.
I think I'm awake now. I'm glad we stalled. It gave me time to have my brain fire up.
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
And for me, it's been a good afternoon.
Yeah.
Y'all.
Solid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sweet.
That's
Cool.
Are you okay?
Yes. I'm glad.
Why are you like a robot? What are you doing?
Am I?
I mean, is this
glad.
really a shocker to you? No, I'm kidding.
I asked if you were okay, and you were like, "Yes, I am
Yes.
glad."
Well, I was the flap. But yeah, either way.
Yes, other human. I am
Yes,
adequate.
other human. I am acceptable by today's
My
standard
logic
deviation.
processing
This is our
tells
main
me
host,
I
everybody.
am standard.
I am the Spice and Echo 1000.
Feed, red
Oh, yeah?
pepper.
I feel no burn. He.
Pain is but a societal construct.
Oh my gosh.
He.
Everyone listening live. First of all, apologies for the long delay. We were working some stuff out. It's not normally going to be such a lengthy delay, like 15 minutes or so. But I wanted to go ahead
It's
and
my fault.
I wanted to go ahead and get things streaming so that you knew that we were around at the very least.
Var was working on a creative expansion to
Aw,
our.
thanks, Var. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome, dude.
That's right. LJ Bot re-enters the fray.
I'm LJ.
You spoiled it. We were supposed to do our name stuff first.
Oh, I'm sorry. But he
Not
had.
you, Meso.
Oh.
You ruined it. You
No
ruined
one-
everything.
no
You
one
ruined
heard
my
me.
great plan.
No one heard
Everyone
me. It's
heard you.
okay. No, it was but a whisper in the wind.
Meso, who are we?
Oh my.
Hi, everybody. I'm Messa.
I'm Var.
I'm LJ.
I'm trying to Invictus.
Fluffy.
And hello, everybody, and welcome to TTV
You
Podcast.
should have said I'm LJ twice.
I was expecting that.
That's what
I'm
This is
LJ.
why. This is why I need to be the one in control. Of
I
LJ.
know,
I'm
listen.
So annoyed. I
I
had this all planned out. I just couldn't get the stupid soundboard to work.
I like it.
It's
Yeah, I know
kind
you do.
it's kind of working because that was me hitting the number.
See, it works for everyone but me.
It just doesn't like its creator.
Rebel.
I like it.
Oh, it worked for me that time. Thanks.
No.
LJ.
Hey, like, so you really found the old audio?
I mean,
Yeah, I just googled LJ Bot, and I guess at some point we uploaded literally everything from the original LJ Bot. Because I just feel like I found it on some weird, obscure website. It just had all of our bytes on it.
What the heck?
Huh.
That's awesome.
I mean, it wasn't like super long ago. I mean, within the last couple years, Ben was going crazy with it one day.
oh yeah. Well, that was during an episode.
Oh, America, you need to calm down.
I did not. We don't have that. The host isn't here anymore.
Oh, it's working.
You need to calm down.
Oh my gosh.
Kind of says if you
I
spam
like
the
it.
key, does it overlap?
I like it.
No, I don't think so.
You couldn't spam the key anyways, could you? I mean, because it takes
Yeah,
away
no,
the
you can only
reaction.
press them.
LJ with the hot political takes.
Well, it looks like LJ Bot's finally working, so I'm glad I was able to get that working.
Gosh dang.
Sweet.
Aw, thanks, Var. I appreciate it.
I sound so disingenuous when I say I appreciate it.
Thanks, Var. It's like someone's holding a gun to your
lot.
head. Thanks, Var. I appreciate it.
It's like I'm in a Neil Breen movie.
I cannot believe I appreciate you, Var.
Can't help you with that one.
Well, it's been a topsy-turvy 2 weeks since we last did a Brick Feed podcast. I mean, TTV podcast, because we did last do a Brick Feed.
Yeah.
Last week for a change.
Yeah.
So we kind of have a bit of stuff to catch up on. One big
I think
thing.
I broke him.
What?
I tried to go to the second page of sound bites. Now he's not doing it again.
No!
Oh, thanks, Var. I appreciate it.
So right now there's like 2 versions of LJ bot. There's the actual bot, and then there's LJ controlling the sound bites on his end. So.
Yeah. And those the ones on my end are the louder ones. I don't know if they're like obscenely loud. They shouldn't be.
No, but they are a little. You can
They're
tell.
a little bit louder. They're noticeably louder. Not too
Alright.
loud though.
Still, that's way
Oh, my
too many
Matsui.
LJs.
Oh, there he goes. He's working again.
Oh, my Matthew.
It just takes him a
So
minute, I think.
we just got a super chat.
Oh, okay.
$5 from Gustavus Adolphus. Y'all are talking like you're in the room, and to that I say, you must be kidding, aren't you?
You're my
I did not hit her! I did not! Oh, hi, man.
Lisa, you need to calm down.
You're
No,
lying.
Lisa,
I
you
never
need-
hit
no.
you.
No!
Johnny doesn't drink. And I'm dying.
Well, I don't think we were talking like we were in the room earlier, but we certainly are now.
Where's the bomb?
I don't know. Where is the bomb?
That's a good question, LJ bot. Where is the bomb?
Surprise.
But yeah, it's been a minute since we did the TTV podcast.
Mm-hmm.
There's like one particularly giant thing that's gone down involving a certain arachnid dude. But before we get into that, I think we should talk about some other stuff. No!
No.
Namely
That's
some
an app
YouTube
reaction.
policy changes that have been going on lately that for the first time in years make me happy when it comes to talking about YouTube. I'm not used to this feeling. It's a weird emotion.
It's, you know what? It's strange. It feels like something's going down behind the scenes at YouTube, and they finally decided to start like doing things and caring about their platform. But there's been like a multitude of things that they've been doing recently. Yeah, well, so 3 things that have recently changed with YouTube. 1, not so great. 2, pretty good. I'll start with the 2 pretty good ones. So the first thing that they started doing is they've changed their copyright policy now. So that I should probably actually look this up just so I can get the proper wording. I believe the way it works now is that you cannot monetize copyright claims, at least not in the same way that you could before.
Yeah.
I believe it just takes away monetization entirely. Like you can't monetize it or something.
Okay.
Which is pretty ridiculous. The reason that's a big deal is because that takes away the incentive for companies to copyright claim videos, especially if they're false copyright claims. Because right now there's a thing on YouTube that are like they're basically copyright farms on YouTube that are these automatic algorithms that these big companies created specifically to go around copyright claiming videos. And it doesn't actually matter whether it's a false claim or a or a legitimate claim or not. They are specifically designed just to claim as many videos as possible, because if they do, they rake in the AdSense revenue from those
Money.
videos. Yeah. But
So
now,
basically stealing money from you.
yeah, exactly. But now the way it works is that a copyright claim will take off monetization for the video, so that neither party makes any money from it. And also the video uploader actually gets like a link that shows exactly what time frame in the video the copyright was created for. So you can actually go in now and remove that audio and replace it with something else, which is something that you couldn't do before. Before, it was the entire video. So your options were basically, oh well, I guess I could just delete my video and re-upload it, or you could replace the entire video's worth of audio with some like stupid, royalty-free music, but it would ruin your video. Or you could just
Time
let
to get out the ukulele.
yeah. So now it's taken away a lot of incentive, so it basically destroys those copyright farms that are profiting off of falsely claiming YouTube channels.
Mm-hmm. Now,
That
Which
is
is pretty
absolutely
big.
fantastic. I
question.
love the music thing because like we're inching closer and closer to Vessel's replace video feature.
Gosh, once they
Oh my
introduce
God.
that, oh,
You would think that would be something that they could have done by now. I
Yeah.
can't believe they still haven't done it.
yeah.
For those who have not heard about the Vessel thing, back when we were using this other streaming platform called Vessel, they had this really awesome feature where you could just take a video and like replace it entirely without changing any of the stuff or anything, like the links, all that stuff. You can replace the actual file that is being streamed on their platform. So let's say you made a mistake or there's copyright in your video, you can just go into your upload platform and just replace the video with a new version of it. And the link on your channel still goes to the new video and everything. Nothing is broken. You don't have to re-upload a completely new video or anything. It was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I miss it.
Gosh dang.
The good
I,
old days.
if that were still a thing on YouTube, we could have just had Biocraft out so much faster. Because, like, it was... First of all, I have to ask, can you replace the audio with your own audio, or does it have to be something on YouTube?
I'm pretty sure it's
That
the
I do
YouTube
not know.
stock audio, right? Like you have to choose from their library.
Yeah.
I
Something
believe
like that.
so.
You can't insert your own new audio.
But you can also clip it so that it takes it out entirely, if that's what you decide to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think they're copyright claiming. They put restrictions on people manually claiming like stuff under, I believe, 6 seconds or 7, something like that.
I think it's 5 seconds.
Oh,
I thought
close
it
enough.
was...
And
Yeah.
then unintentional, like when it unintentional audio. So if like a song plays in the background of a room or something, they can't claim that.
Mm-hmm.
So if it just happens to be like incidentally playing in your recording, they can't copyright claim it just because like, hey, that's our song playing faintly behind you or whatever, So
Yeah.
that's also really good because I know we're gonna definitely be having plenty of videos with that.
So I found the page itself where they announced this change. I will link it for you guys here. Just to kind of run through it real briefly. Today, we're introducing an update to our manual claiming policies, which prevents copyright owners from making money on manual claims for short song segments or unintentional audio, such as background music in a coffee shop. So short segments would be single-digit seconds, so like 5 seconds. But in special cases, there are exceptions to that. Such as if the entire video is made up of compilations of short music clips.
Yeah, makes sense. Wow. Context? This is,
I know, crazy. Right?
Wow. Alright.
As of today, music partners will be notified of this new policy as well as any new manual claims that don't adhere to it. We'll ramp up policy enforcement mid-September. After this time, those who repeatedly fail to follow this policy will have their access to manual claiming revoked. Whoa, that's
Ooh.
big. Basically, what this means is that if someone, like I was saying before, these copyright farms continuously claim videos that are basically falsely claimed, like they just have unintentional use of music, or it's music that are less than 5 seconds long. If a copyright holder continues to claim those videos, they'll actually have their ability to claim revoked, that's pretty big. That's
Yeah.
really awesome.
That's huge
'Cause
news.
there are definitely a lot of companies abusing this right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're basically piggybacking off of YouTubers and just finding any reason to strike, even if it's not actually correct. what they've done.
I heard
Full strike.
there was a video from the YouTuber Mr. Beast. And I don't know, like, if you're familiar with that channel, he gets millions upon millions of views per video. Like, we're talking 30 million around that. There was one video he uploaded that it literally was like 5 seconds of him like singing a song, like not like he was humming the tune of a song, and the whole video got copyright claim from a company.
That sucks.
It does suck because that means he lost. I think he said like he lost like hundreds of thousands of dollars off of that one video.
Man. Yeah, well, it's like that whole thing we joke about. We joke about on the podcast where like no copyright music if we're like singing it ourselves, but that's what happened to that guy.
Yep, it's
so...
not a meme. It's true to life.
Yeah, Meso,
I'm
it
sorry
is.
for all the times where you were like, no copyright music, and I'm like, oh, it's only humming. I sing so bad. Why would anyone copyright
too.
it?
It's okay.
Occasionally.
It's okay. Occasionally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's some positive advancements being made.
Yeah, I mean,
happy.
it's a small step, but it's a big step at the same time. You know, it's like
YouTube did something right.
This is. Go ahead.
It just feels like an effort is being made with this change, which is good. Like, it doesn't completely solve the problem. It doesn't completely turn the whole copyright system around, but it's a small step towards something bigger.
Yeah, it's very good.
Oh gosh, fudge! I was gonna say something.
Use your words. I believe in you.
Nah. It'll come back to me. Continue.
All right.
Gosh, I had it on the tip of my tongue. Son of a gun. Oh, yeah, okay. Imagine being a company, a large company, like, for instance, Sony, and somebody in your team abuses the copyright system enough to where YouTube revokes your copyright privileges, and then anyone on YouTube can just use the music or whatever that you're trying to claim from Sony without fear of being claimed by Sony because they abused it
long game.
and they just had their privileges revoked wholesale.
I imagine that they would still be able to claim videos. They would just not be able to do it manually. They would have to go through a middleman to do it.
Sorry, yeah,
they contact YouTube directly.
They would have to do it manually.
Yeah.
They
wouldn't be able to do it themselves, essentially.
Okay, yeah.
They can't stop us all.
That's the other thing that's really great. So, a lot of the time, gosh, if this was a thing years ago, Ninjago TLDR would still be alive because it would stop Lego from auto claiming things, or Warner Brothers or whoever from auto claiming things, because there are two groups that will claim Ninjago stuff. It's Warner Brothers and it's Lego. And it's not a manual process most of the time. It's an automated one. And because it's automated...
Well...
go ahead.
That is usually the case. That was actually not the case with TLDR.
Really?
Those were manually claimed, yes.
Oh,
boy.
Oh, fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
But at least... Because the thing is, at least that could be fought. Because under no circumstances...
And they also weren't claimed either. They were stricken.
That's right.
Which is a much, much bigger deal.
You were struck by... Whoops.
And, I mean, like, it's actually a really, really big deal. The companies are very much not supposed to just kind of hand out strikes all willy-nilly like that. I don't know what Lego's team was doing.
A bad job.
I think they were just... Yeah, they were doing a really bad job. But they are definitely abusing the strike system for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember there was some stuff about Nintendo where they were a bit funny about people using their stuff.
Oh, Nintendo's
Mercifully,
awful.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah, Nintendo's known for abusing that kind of stuff.
Nintendo won't even let you play certain games on YouTube. They will strike you down.
Yeah.
It used to be much worse. They became I believe it became a bit more lenient as far as like monetization policies go, but strike-wise, it's still bad. It's still just as bad as it always was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was one part of it. So there's another thing that's also really fascinating. and it's the fact that YouTube has actually brought down a lawsuit against an individual YouTuber.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this might be the first time they've ever done anything like that before.
Oh wow.
But yeah, so there's there was this YouTuber, what was his name? I think it was Chris Brady. Yeah, Chris Brady. So this guy, oh my god, this guy, what a story this guy this guy has. He is
what a story, Var.
He's a terrible dude. So this guy was going around copyright I think striking. Yeah, he was copyright striking random Minecraft YouTubers' videos. No, they were false strikes, but he was striking them anyway. His strike claimed that he owned the rights to the footage from their Let's Play, and that's why he was striking them. Now, when you strike a video, it's a really big deal because it sets up like a legal precedent, right? If you are to challenge a strike, that's the beginnings of a I don't even know what the terminology would be, but like a legal conversation, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Where like you now are kind of in this big dispute between each other.
Yeah.
At this point, you could be taken to court if you dispute a strike.
Yeah.
And because of that, you also have to submit your information. That includes your legal name, your address, residency, that kind of stuff.
It's a way of
order to
doxing
dispute a strike.
people.
Right. So
as
this
well.
guy, this guy was false striking videos. Now keep in mind, if you get 3 strikes, your entire YouTube channel goes down. We ran into that issue back in 2017.
2017.
Yep.
Yep. We had 3 strikes and
With
we had a
TLDR.
week.
We had a week, and your channel goes down. If you can't get that strike revoked within that week time, you lose your channel.
Yeah.
And you can't just make another one either. You're basically blocked.
Nope. Yeah.
So, so this guy was
Is
striking
it like
channels.
an IP ban if you're blocked?
I
don't
think so.
I don't think so, because there are people who have been banned from the website before, like Keemstar. He's
Like
not supposed.
Keemstar?
Yeah, exactly. He is not supposed to be on YouTube anymore. His account was banned, and they don't.
No.
Really?
Yes,
Yeah.
YouTube has said that if you make a new account, it will just be banned, because you're not supposed to be there. It's like a duplicate account on our message boards. But Leo in the patron chat says Keem has like 4. He has had like 4 accounts. He's not supposed to have it. He gets around it by trying to
He
claim that
says-
he doesn't manage the Drama Alert
Yeah.
channel.
He says that his friend runs Drama Alert and he's just the presenter,
Mm-hmm. Which,
Interesting.
which is a roundabout way of doing it. Yeah.
yeah.
Huh. Well, that's fascinating. Well, I mean, anyway, yeah. So you can get your channel revoked. I mean,
Oh.
you might still be able to make another channel through like roundabout means like that, but you also lose all of your progress. Like all your subscribers are gone within a blink of an eye, which is crazy.
Yeah, your community.
Anyway, so Chris
standing is
Brady-
gone.
Chris Brady was striking YouTube channels and extorting them for money, right? So he was creating false claims on these Minecraft Let's Players channels, bringing them down to only 1 strike remaining before their channel gets deleted, and then he would send them a message saying, I want you to either pay me $150 via PayPal or $75 in Bitcoin, otherwise I'm going to send you another strike and you're going to lose your channel.
It's messed up.
Yikes.
Ugh.
And that, I mean, really, that goes to show you how completely just like awful YouTube's
That's
current copyright
horrific.
system is.
Yeah, exactly.
That someone
Yeah.
can get away with that. Yeah. The worst part
is
was
awful.
this isn't even the worst part. The worst part was that not only did he do this, but when any of the channels went to dispute the strike as being false, keep in mind, they have to submit all of their legal information to YouTube as well. Now, you would think it just goes to YouTube, but in reality, it goes to Chris Brady, who filed the strike.
Yep.
So, once they tried to dispute the strike, instead of paying him the extorted money, he used that information to swat them.
Gosh,
Yeah.
dang. And like that
Yeah,
that is
'cause-
those ain't no small potatoes either, because a man has been
Yeah.
killed because of swatting.
Oh
Like
yeah,
that-
no,
I
it's
think a few people
Yeah.
have
It is
died
essentially
because of
attempted murder.
swatting.
oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
easily. Because I mean the
And
local.
attempted murder of family members as well, because some people don't live alone.
Oh yeah, no, there was a guy. I think it was a father. Like some guy swatted. He was trying to swat someone, but it was the wrong house.
yeah.
So the guy was just totally unrelated to
No
the entire
way.
situation. He opens the door at like 2 a.m. and gets shot because the police are going in there expecting that it's a very hostile situation.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, he had nothing to do with it. It was a Call of Duty dispute. The guy went to prison.
Absolutely awful.
He's done.
Yeah, good.
yeah, I think he got tried for murder. I
Yeah,
believe.
yeah, I believe he did, and he was convicted, and he is in prison. So, because he's done it
Yeah,
before
There's a
too.
precedent
Wow.
for it. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, good. 'cause
So, yeah,
that
I mean,
stuff
this
is
Chris Brady
really
guy-
dangerous.
This Chris Brady guy was extorting for money, deleting YouTube channels, and swatting people. And that really just goes to show you how screwed up YouTube's copyright system was.
yeah,
Like, that is
It's
crazy.
Super
There is
abusable.
no power to the creators. It's all in the person making the claim or the strike. They have all the power they want, and they can get away with tons of stuff. Well, not anymore, because right now YouTube implemented their change in copyright claiming policies, and now they have filed a lawsuit against Chris Brady. They are suing him for the abuse of their
Good.
system,
yeah.
and I don't know exactly how much money they're suing him for.
Hopefully a lot. 'Cause it's
But
not-
I do remember reading that they basically like they kind of like dissed him in their claim. It was like, oh yeah, here it is. They're like, Brady's extortionate and harassing activities described here may, at least in part, be motivated by his failings in his Minecraft interactions. The lawsuit reads.
Ouch. How bad at Minecraft videos do you have to be dissed by YouTube proper?
Yeah, it's like this guy extortioned other YouTubers because he's a loser,
Yeah.
Yep.
basically.
What a-
But yeah,
Unbelievable.
that's
Yeah.
that whole thing about strikes and stuff. It's a way to silence people, especially smaller channels that are trying to target YouTubers or things that are like that people want to talk about that
Yeah.
aren't like okay with this certain YouTuber or this topic, and people will target their channel, and in fear of being doxxed, they will be silenced
Mhm.
because of the strikes. So
Yeah,
I know
no,
a lot
it's-
of people like that.
It's not a good thing, and it's definitely like this Brady guy is definitely not the only person to have done this before.
Oh yeah.
Uh-oh.
No.
So the fact that he's getting sued by YouTube itself is a really big deal. And if it does go through, and they file in favor of YouTube, then that's a really big deal. That I mean, if you can be sued for doing that, I don't think a lot of people who might have done it before will continue to do it.
It's
Like, that's
really
a pretty big.
it's handy because at that point it will potentially set a legal precedent. The last time there was a YouTube related lawsuit that I remember getting a lot of publicity was when a channel called H3H3 Productions, which is not a family friendly channel, if you're wondering.
Oh yeah.
They sued a guy who tried to claim one of their videos in which they went over one of his videos. So the guy sues them. It's like a drawn out legal battle for like a year and a half, 2 years. They win, but it's not a legal precedent because the judge in that case said, listen, I'm only ruling on this case. I'm adding a caveat here because there are a lot of different instances of this kind of a situation that it would be unwise for me to judge here. This instance, however, would have very likely set a legal precedent because it is with the channel proper, or it's with the company proper.
Yeah.
So,
It's also like I think there's a lot of this. People aren't used to the whole internet related thing because like it's not in literal form. It's like digitally. So like you can you can get done for extortion in real life, like IRL, and then there's like this whole literal physical sense of you have done this crime, but it's a lot harder to dispute stuff that goes on digitally because of all the it's not in a literal sense, it's in this like digital space that's like existent slash non-existent type. It's hard to describe and I don't know how to say it, but basically people don't get the internets and they don't get how people can do crime on the internets or the fact that it's not a physical in real life thing. It makes it more confusing, I guess. Like people, I don't know, but stuff on the internet does matter, especially when your personal information is at risk and things like that, and people's livelihoods are at risk, and people's like freedoms to earn money on YouTube are. And I think like people just, I don't know, people just aren't ready yet. But I'm hopefully this change and stuff
People
will
suck.
make it a little bit more easier to do that.
That's the moral of the story.
No, it isn't. What I think you're trying to get at is the world has not caught up to the sheer unbridled potential the internet has to offer, and so laws are a little bit outdated.
Yeah, because like cyber crimes and stuff, like I always have the feeling that in the police force and like here, and I don't know about other countries, but here for sure, I feel like when you say there's like cybercrime going on or cyberbullying, like with teenagers and stuff, like the police and that are not as well equipped to deal with it as like an actual crime or actual physical bullying to someone in real life.
Yeah.
So I think you're right about that. I think that's a better way of putting it.
I don't know how I would go about it. Like if I get a phone call from someone, it's like, hey, I'd like to report a crime. All right, what crime would you like to report? It's a cyber crime. I don't know how you go about handling that. Especially in small towns, like they got
What's
nothing.
your username?
You can't really go to like the police or anything. At that point, you kind of have to go straight to a lawyer.
Gotta go to the internet police.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, it's like what if someone like threatens to SWAT your house? Like, what do you do about that? You have to contact the police because you got to warn them, but at the same time,
Get the police to
like...
protect you from the police. Well, this is awkward.
Yeah. It's a whole
like,
mess
I
of a
want these
situation.
guys to stop sending pizzas to my house.
Oh no, okay. Oh well, no. I guess that's fair. I was about to say no. Getting a pizza sent to your house sounds like it'd be great until I remembered they make you pay for it. That's the whole point.
Yeah. It's pay by cash. Then they send like spam it there.
I've heard of people who just like put themselves on a blacklist if they know people are gonna screw with them. Like just tell the place, hey, I'm only ever gonna be carry out.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense.
That does, yeah.
I never get any pizza delivered to my house. I always do carry out, which is a little bit more of a pain.
Can they
but...
even drive out there to the middle of nowhere?
Yeah, no, it's like an hour and a half to get to the pizza place.
It's like the other dude in Idaho is the one that works at the pizza.
It's Orion. I go over to Orion's house.
I'm a chef.
Oh no!
Hey, I'm chef by John Favreau.
He frisbees the pizza across Idaho.
There's like a bite out of the pizza, and there's like a freaking Jimmy Stringer helmet in the.
Oh no!
Stringer
Just like
pizza.
enveloped in the dough is just a Hero Factory hand coming out of the dough.
No, it wouldn't even be.
I don't
there
want
wouldn't
to
even
be
be dough.
eaten. Don't eat me.
Gosh, that guy's crazy.
All right. Well, fair enough. YouTube elevating themselves. Hopefully, it continues,
Yeah.
and they have some
You've
new.
done good.
And there was the
New
one
country
other
thing.
thing that we don't really need to talk about that much, but it's kind of interesting nonetheless. That YouTube was suing someone, and YouTube is also getting sued. They're getting sued by a group of YouTubers who have said that they're being discriminated against, I think, because they're not getting like AdSense revenue or like
Oh,
preferred
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, they're saying that the algorithm is not recommending their content specifically and labeling it as not advertiser friendly. I think. I don't know if I think that's one member who is suing them, and it's not a collaborative lawsuit.
Is it not? I thought it was.
I'm not sure. I don't believe it is. But
I
I'm
do
not-
know that
not
some
sure.
of them have different reasons for doing it. Other people have, specific ones, but I believe it is a collaborative lawsuit.
I'd have to go back and check.
But all I know is that YouTube is also being sued for it. But I mean, I don't have a lot of opinions on it other than I feel like basically everybody kind of gets screwed by the algorithm.
A little bit, yeah.
You have
So-
if you the only people that are not getting messed up by the algorithm are people that know it so finely and play it really well.
Yeah.
Like MatPat will never need to worry about this because he knows the algorithm super well.
Yeah.
I think part of like, I don't know, there's no exact thing of being successful on YouTube, but like you kind of have to play it smart as well as work every day to make videos, because like you want to go for like particular hashtags and things like that in the search like algorithm, so you come up like during a time where a group of people are going to come over and watch something. So for example, YouTube drama is like one of those things that I do watch quite a lot. If something happens in that space, like a bunch of people like me will be searching up this particular thing, and that means if you're a drama channel, you need to be on that immediately because and use the hashtags, so when I search it, the first one will come up, and usually people will click the first one they see, or like one of the few 2 or 3 that they see on the search engine. And that's basically how it goes. And then the more frequent you post, the more often your videos and stuff come up at the top, I believe. I don't know if that's actually how it works, but I can imagine that's how it kind of works.
Yeah, it shows up in like a recommended feed or something. So sometimes it'll be in the
Yeah.
front page, sometimes it'll be like next to videos that you're currently watching.
Yeah. Like I was looking at the analytics for Biocraft the other day, and there's like a reasonable chunk that is just recommended. There's a huge chunk of people coming to the video to watch it that is from a source that they just don't define. They're like other.
Yeah.
No.
Which is
The great
fascinating.
other.
That's very helpful, YouTube. But
All the 4chan fans.
right.
Oh,
So, yeah.
all right.
But that's basically all the YouTube
That's
stuff.
the YouTube news roundup for the week.
It's interesting. Yeah.
Bunch of crazy stuff going on.
Thanks, YouTube.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Then watch
Very
next
cool.
week. TTV channel could not be found.
Yep, our punishment for speaking up.
We don't have any strikes right now, do we?
No. we don't have
Mercifully,
any,
no.
All right, good.
Which is a very good feeling. Gosh,
Challenge
that was some
accepted.
stressful stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So another big thing that's happened since we last did a podcast is a bunch of stuff with Disney and Marvel. Namely the fact they announced some cool shows. That's the biggest
Oh,
thing
boy.
that's happened.
Can't wait to hear this.
Oh, you're doing
Yeah,
shows. Okay.
The biggest thing that's happened, and the thing that everyone's been talking about for the last 2 weeks, is the shows.
Oh, I
They've
see.
announced She-Hulk and Moon Knight and
Okay.
Ms. Marvel, and
So
that's it,
Spider-Man's
yeah.
gone, guys.
And that's it.
Sony took him, and they're not giving him back, and we have to call the police to Sony's house because they're not letting him go.
Quick, get the LJ bot to scream no.
Envy, quick, do something.
Me?
It works best for you. It likes you the most.
It did. It stopped listening to me.
Yeah, it
I'll
won't
get
listen
it
to
to
me
listen
either.
to you, man. No. Here we go.
It's
not working.
He's rebelling.
It's
Yeah.
Well,
failed on both ends.
Any
take
moment,
LJ
it's
Bot, just like they took Spider-Man. Sony has LJ Bot now. So, as a recap, for those who aren't aware, here was the deal. Sony owns Spider-Man. They had a deal
No.
with Marvel.
No.
Brilliant.
No.
Hey, it's working.
No.
Okay.
No.
Continue, Messa.
Okay. Sony owns Spider-Man. They had a deal with Marvel to share the rights to Spider-Man, put him in the movies in exchange for what? Like, what kind of revenue share did they have before now? Was it like-
Well, it depends. I believe that the revenue share between Sony and Marvel was a 10%, or no, it was a 5% profit from films. So they got 5% from the film profit, and then they got the rights to all the merchandising, which is how it was before. That was the
Okay.
revenue split, at least.
Fair.
In return, what Sony would do is they would finance the film, and then Marvel would produce the film, essentially.
Okay. That's how it's worked so far. They had a contract for a certain amount of movies. The movies have been expended with Far From Home. They renegotiated the contract, and well, it didn't go too well. At least from our understanding. Both Kevin Feige, Tom Holland, and a rep from Sony have all publicly commented on this, so it's about as official as it gets. But we've first heard about it through reporting on sites like Variety and Deadline, Hollywood Reporter, etc. And there are other people, other sources who are like insinuating that maybe this was a tactic to leak the news that he's no longer going to be in the MCU as a negotiating chip, not marketing, to basically get public outcry to weigh on Sony during negotiations. If that is truly the case, I gotta wonder why people would officially comment on it ahead of negotiations are finished. So yeah, like there's still people who say, "Oh yeah, just give it a week. They'll smooth things over," but they haven't yet as of August 31st.
It's been a week.
It's been a week. So, in short, here's what this means. It means that there will be more Spider-Man movies. There will be more Spider-Man movies with Tom Holland, but they will be produced by Sony completely with no input from Marvel Studios, Kevin Feige, or anyone, which effectively will make them not part of the MCU. So Spider-Man is going to be this weird split where the story that we've been watching continues, but he probably will never say the word Avengers or mention the name
It'll
Tony
be like
Stark, and Happy
exactly-
Hogan will
It'll be like exactly what happened with Netflix.
Happy Hogan will just be like gone, probably.
Yeah,
Definitely. So
he definitely will. Yeah, he won't be there.
that is our future, basically. And don't worry, because
Thanks, I hate it.
it's all fine because we don't need any of that because we're gonna get to see him team up with Tom Hardy to fight Woody Harrelson, and that's all that I ever really wanted. In the
I
world.
hate everything you just said.
Oh yeah, Tom H and Tom H.
Who needs Marvel
the
Studios
best crossover.
connectivity or storytelling integrity? We
The
have
funniest movie
Venom,
of all time.
and Tom Holland's gonna get that adrenaline in him.
I had a lot of thoughts about it, and they're all negative, and they're all
Yeah,
angry.
You've been going crazy on social media about this.
It's because people have been ticking me off, dude.
Well, there's this like subset of people, and like full disclosure, I understand it slightly, only slightly. There's a
Slightly.
subset of people that are like very strongly advocating Sony. Some people say it's because Sony hasn't really done anything wrong. A lot of people are just doing it to basically villainize or vilify Disney. That's how it's really been going. Making these comments like, I'm happy that, Spider-Man has been taken away from Disney because they already own everything, and I don't want them to own everything. This corporation, how could you really want Disney to have a monopoly over everything in this world? What kind of a person are you? You care about your dumb comic books. I care about the big picture world, etc., etc.
I love it when people try to moralize you. Isn't it great?
That's
Try to
one.
try to make this moral argument about something that's not what you're trying to say whatsoever. Amazing.
That's one side of the conversation. The other side is more talking about the specifics of the revenue share and whether Disney was greedy or not for demanding a certain point.
Basically, there's like two sides. You're either well, actually, I guess there's three sides.
Yeah.
There's either I hate Disney, they ruined Spider-Man, or I hate Sony, they ruined Spider-Man, or I don't care.
Basically, the third option.
Yeah, I figured that you were
I,
there.
I haven't watched Spider-Man Homecoming. I haven't watched Spider-Man Far From Home, so this literally means nothing to me.
Well, as someone that really liked the Spider-Man films, what they were doing, this is a really, really obnoxious thing to have happened, especially after the way the last film ended.
Boy, I sure am happy to see that great cliffhanger resolved.
Because here's the thing, Fwef, that you might not know since you hadn't seen the movie yet.
Spoilers.
Spider-Man
Far
2
From Home.
ends on a giant cliffhanger. Like the biggest,
I've seen it. I've seen the memes.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. It's the biggest cliffhanger
Yeah.
that the MCU's ever really done before. Like, it's a very by-the-books definition cliffhanger that we haven't really gotten before. So it really set up the third film, and now I don't know what the third film is going to be now.
They can still do it. They'll just have to cut out any MCU references.
Yeah, that's the problem is they've established the MCU. I would say that the Spider-Man films, as they are currently, are the most MCU heavy of all the solo MCU films.
Yeah.
Like, it refers to the greater MCU the
Yeah.
most out of any of the other ones,
Mm-hmm.
which makes this decision so just mind-boggling to me, because they've set this character up to be so intrinsic to the MCU. They set him up so that his entire character journey, his motivations, are intrinsically tied to the MCU and Iron Man in particular. And now we're just going to go into this third film where all of that is just never mentioned again.
Pretty much.
That
It's
one guy in the-
Spider-Man 3, and then Spider-Man saves someone, and then takes off his mask, and it's Andrew Garfield.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
I mean, yeah, they basically Garfield him.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have like
It's-
MCU films, and like they're just never going to mention Spider-Man again? Like, what?
Yep.
Doctor Strange lives in the same freaking city as him. And they're
Don't
just
you-
never going to mention it?
Don't you just love like storytelling integrity ruined by studio politics?
It's so
Like,
annoying.
This is what I've been dealing with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for the last like 6 years. Studio politics ruined the potential for interconnected universe, and the same things happening with movies.
I have a question. Did this
Go
just
on.
come up randomly, or was there a contract
Okay.
agreement for 2 movies?
So
Because if it's not, then Sony's pretty mean if they decide to take
Well,
it
this is-
away, like at the penultimate moment.
this
We knew
is
this was
where
coming.
the conversation happens, all right? This is where the controversy happens. So, the reason that Spider-Man got ripped away was because Disney wanted to renegotiate the contract that they had. Now, previously they were getting 5% of the film's profits plus merchandising. They wanted to change it so that they were getting 50% plus merchandising. Sony was like, no. And they took Spider-Man away, basically. We don't really know which company wouldn't budge. It's all
Probably
hearsay.
both.
Yeah, I mean it's probably both, but it's all hearsay in terms of who said what and whether or not there was any back and forth or what other alternate contracts were offered. But what we do know is that Disney asked for 50% and Sony said no. And Sony wanted to keep it at the 5% that they had previously.
Okay.
Now-
I can see both sides on that. For
Right.
Sure.
Well, the
'Cause
thing is,
5% is a bit small for considering that they did make Spider-Man, like Marvel did. Like,
right. Well,
create
so
the character.
let me explain a little bit further though, because that's the basic premise. But there's more to it than that. So, in in terms of the actual deal itself, I've written up just books upon books of this stuff on my
He
Twitter.
really has. Check his Twitter for fun.
So the initial deal between Marvel and Disney and Sony was actually established back when Marvel wasn't a part of Disney. It was just Marvel, and they were struggling to make money, so they sold the film rights to Spider-Man. Fun fact: they didn't actually sell Spider-Man to Sony; they put it up for bid. Spider-Man was bought by a completely different company, and Sony just traded James Bond with Spider-Man. That's it. So then Sony never bought Spider-Man. They basically got it for free. They traded a different property for it.
What was the other? Who bought Spider-Man originally then?
Whoever is James Bond right now, I don't quite know.
Oh gosh.
I knew, but I don't know right now.
Yeah,
I can't be bothered to search.
we just looked that
Hold
up.
on.
James Bond.
Warner Brothers,
I'm
yeah,
thinking-
probably.
Yeah, okay. Warner Brothers then. Huh.
Oh, gosh.
So-
Interesting.
I really don't like James Bond movies. Continue.
So yeah,
What's wrong with James Bond? Never
So at-
having seen one.
Yeah, don't worry
at
about
this
it.
time, so Sony got the film rights to Spider-Man. They could produce Spider-Man films, and the contract was that Marvel Studios, at this time not Marvel Studios, just Marvel, would receive 5% of the earnings from the films, and they would be able to focus on merchandising. So they got all of merchandising. Fine, cool.
Okay.
Now, to break that down for you a little bit, no one knew how big Spider-Man was going to be in the cinema when this deal was made. No one had any idea. So Marvel
Okay.
agreed to this low ball number only because Sony offered to pay them up front. So they were actually advanced $15 million for the rights, which was the estimated 5% of that film deal of the profits.
Boy.
Important
Okay.
context: Marvel is currently in the throes of potential bankruptcy, so this is why they did this.
Yeah, this is why they did this. They needed money desperately, so they sold the rights to Spider-Man for 5%
Yeah.
because they could get the 5% immediately. That's why they did it.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yes, it was like they could have had it higher, but they wouldn't have been able to get the money immediately.
They wouldn't have been around to
Or
get the
like
money if they waited longer.
Yeah,
basically.
Big
yeah, so
yeesh.
it was to buy themselves out of basically bankruptcy then.
Yeah.
Essentially, yeah.
So, Spider-Man comes out. It's a huge success, right? I believe that film made upward like somewhere around 700 million, 800 million.
Seems about right.
Let me double check,
Yeah.
but continue in the meantime.
You take out the budget, which I believe was around 200 million, and you're looking at like 600 million in profit, right? 600 million is basically what Sony took home. You can take out the 5% from that, which I think is like 60 million. I want to say. I'm just rough balling these numbers off the top of my head.
It would have been 30 million.
30
Yeah.
million. Okay.
Yeah.
30 million. So Marvel's take for the first Spider-Man film was $30 million. Sony's take was $600 million, or $570 million, essentially. Now you're like, okay, well that seems really weighted towards Sony, and Marvel's not really getting a whole lot of money out of that. Well, they have merchandise, right? They're getting 100% merchandising. Here's the thing about merchandise. Merchandise is really successful assuming people want to buy the merchandise. So when Spider-Man is really popular, the merchandising does pay for itself, right? Like it does bring in a lot of revenue. But if the character starts to plateau or decline in popularity, merchandise sales tank. So what
Yeah.
you're looking at in terms of merchandise, a lot of people think, oh, well, Disney has 100% merchandising rights for Spider-Man, meaning they're making tons and tons of money. They're being greedy. They're asking for way too much. But if you actually look at the numbers for the merchandising sales for the Spider-Man property, back when Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3 were going strong, yes, Marvel was making like millions.
And then Sony started making trash Spider-Man.
But then the Amazing Spider-Man happened. and The Amazing Spider-Man 2 happened. And merchandising
My
went
birthday
from like
trying to light my
700
candles.
million to like
You
200
forgot my
million.
birthday.
I can actually bring up
Yeah.
these numbers.
I've got the
if that's
numbers.
important.
I got the numbers
Oh, do
for
you? Okay.
the earnings. Which
For
movie?
merchandising
Oh.
specifically.
Oh, for merchandise? No, okay, fair enough. I don't have
Well,
those. I only have the
I
movie
don't
earnings.
know if this kind of like comes into it, but also merchandising, like you have to pay like other people for merchandising as well, like the people who are making. You have
Yeah,
to
you actually
ask
have
a
to
company
produce
to
it.
make
Merchandise.
There's also tax.
merchandise.
Oh my gosh, I'm not
Yeah.
used to that sound. Okay,
Oh, another
What sound was that?
another
that
donation.
correct.
Yep.
Oh, we got a donation. Cool.
So that one,
Thank you.
that was
Oh, wow,
from
thank you.
Sibnaf. Sibnaf donated $2. Thank you, and his message is, "Hey, look, $2."
Hey, look, $2.
That's the price of a couple pencil packs.
That's very true.
So yeah. So if you look at a graph there, I don't have it up right now, but like, oh, actually, no, I say that and I find the graph that I was looking for. So, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3. Spider-Man 2 made 385 million in merchandise sales. That's only 385 million. Keep in mind the movie made for Spider-Man 2 784 million. For Spider-Man
Yeah.
3, they made 397 million out of merchandising sales. That movie made 891 million box office.
Is the second highest grossing Spider-Man movie to date.
Right. Now, we get into the Amazing Spider-Man films. Now, when you look at the actual profit from those films versus the previous trilogy, it does drop, but it doesn't actually drop that much. Like, The Amazing Spider-Man made 758 million, but Spider-Man 2 only made 784 million. So that difference isn't actually that much. But then you look at the merchandising sales. With Spider-Man 3, you had almost 400 million in sales, but with The Amazing Spider-Man, the merchandise dropped to 235 million in
Okay,
sales.
yeah.
That's a 45% drop right there in merchandise sales.
It's because everybody already has Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. So
So
why do they need?
the point that I'm getting at is that yes, Disney does make all of the merchandise sales for Spider-Man, but when it comes to brand recognition and the way the public sees the brand, Sony really doesn't have much to lose if Spider-Man tanks, because those movies are guaranteed to make huge bucks no matter what. But the merchandise suffers tremendously, meaning even
Yeah.
though Marvel doesn't really have any say in the films, they're getting hit hard when those films do poorly. Which
Yeah, people will be embarrassed to buy merchandise.
Exactly.
leads us into the current Marvel Disney Sony relationship. The reason that Marvel stepped in to actually take back control over the films was to turn it around and actually make the films a success again. Because their incentive to do so was to increase merchandise sales.
Hmm.
So obviously Spider-Man gets to
see.
benefit from being in the MCU, but that's a Sony benefit. Sony benefits from Spider-Man being in the MCU, not Disney.
Yeah. So they're kind of tug of warring. With
Right.
Yeah,
it, like, you know,
it was pretty
Sony-
mutually beneficial.
It was very
Sony
mutually
is-
beneficial.
Yeah, so Sony is, you know, making the movies and that, but the merchandise is going down when they're making Spider-Man movies.
Right, because
well,
Sony's making a lot of silly decisions about the character because they don't care.
Yeah.
They're just in it to produce a movie that'll make tons of money. They don't actually
Yeah,
care
and-
about the brand itself.
And then Disney actually wants people to like the movies, so therefore the merchandise will go up because people actually like the,
Exactly.
the movie
And now-
stuff.
This isn't to
Yeah.
say that Disney is doing this because of some altruistic, we just want people to love Spider-Man. No, their incentive is just like Sony, it's just like every other company.
money.
It's to make as much money as possible. But
Yeah.
their incentive comes from wanting the brand to be popular because that is where the money comes from for them.
Yeah.
So
Because
Meanwhile,
like, it would be
Sony
the
can
same
produce
if,
the
if,
schlock
if the
Venom
shoe
movie.
if the shoe was on the other foot, like Sony would be doing exactly the same.
Right.
Because
And meanwhile, yeah,
if you-
Messa, like what you said, we got Venom. That's Sony like Sony Spider-Man right there.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to the current deal between these companies and the current homecoming MCU Spider-Man, the change happens when Disney takes over the reins of the films. So previously,
Gesundheit.
or well, so currently,
Thank
the
you.
the change in the new contract was instead of Sony handling the production of the film, Disney handles the production of the film. Now, it's important to realize that under this change, none of the money exchanges changed at all. So, Sony was still producing the film themselves financially. They were still paying the bills,
Yeah.
and they were also still taking in 95% of the earnings, and Disney was still only getting 5% of the earnings. However, the difference is that Disney is the one actually making the film now. They're the ones in charge of production. They're the ones who hire everybody to work on the film. They're the ones who find the screenwriter. They're the ones who find the director. They're the ones who hire and handle casting for the film. And in return, Sony handles marketing. So they do the trailers and the posters. That's all Sony does for the film. Otherwise, they basically hand someone a check and they just sit back and watch their bank account grow, essentially.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
That's
The difference happens, though, when Spider-Man becomes really successful. All of a sudden, now that Disney is making them films. Wow, everybody loves Spider-Man now. And that is why Disney is asking for 50%. Because they're the ones who actually made the film a success.
Yup.
yeah. Well, Sony knows that too, and they ain't gonna let him go.
Of course not.
Pretty much. Here we are.
Of course not.
I
So,
mean, you'd be crazy to let it go, because like if it's that successful and it's only gonna get better, you ain't taking your hand out of that cookie jar.
exactly.
Like,
Exactly. Why would they? They have no reason to want to take their hand out of the cookie jar. They are getting literally free money.
mhm.
They do nothing. They have done nothing to make these films successful.
Oh,
Marvel
boy.
did all the work, and they're making all the money. That was the current deal. That's why Marvel asked for 50%, because they realized, hey, wait a minute. We need to actually, like, kind of get more money out of this, because we're literally doing everything.
Yep.
Sony said no.
Speaking
In
of
a
making
perfect
money,
world, you would. In a perfect world, that this deal would go down well, but businesses want money, and it doesn't matter to Sony whether they've put work in or not. They have the rights, and therefore legally they can dispute it.
Now,
Yes,
we
that's
did
all.
get another. So, a couple things. We got a super chat from TalkNuva03. He donated $1.99. He said, can't think of a good message, so here's another $2.
Thank you.
there we go.
Oh,
Oh,
thank you.
yeah. Holla, holla, $2. Thank
And
you.
we also got another comment from Luxuritas. He said, on one hand, if Sony's paying, it makes sense they'd get a lot of profit. But with Marvel Studios actually doing the work, even if they're not paying for their own labor, ? Couldn't you look at it like Sony hiring Marvel Studios?
That's what I was kind of seeing it as, like, as
Yes.
a way of doing that. Yeah.
You could, but also, under the new deal that Disney was proposing, it wasn't just that they were going to get 50% of the profits. They also wanted to pay for 50% of the finances.
Oh, I
So
see.
So it would no longer be Sony, paying for everything. Disney would also pay 50% of all expenses. So it would no longer be Sony hiring Disney to make their movies. It would be a mutual, completely
just a
even
partnership.
between
Yeah.
both companies.
Yeah.
That's what
Well,
Disney was asking
we'll
for.
see. Have they decided?
Nope.
Yes. Sony said no.
I thought negotiations were still underway.
Well,
I mean, whether you
mean-
believe that or not depends on whether you believe any of these sources. As far as a lot of people are confirmed, as far as a lot of people are concerned, Feige's commented on it publicly. Tom Holland's commented on it publicly. Sony's commented on it publicly. It's over. However, there are people who still claim that talks are ongoing based on public pressure, and I hope they're right.
I
don't
heard
think
from
they
the
are.
grapevine that Kevin Feige has left somewhere or something like that.
That I have not
I
heard.
don't know if that's true.
He's
I
left
don't think it's
producing and
true.
overseeing the Sony movies. He's definitely not left Marvel.
Right, okay. I knew he left something, but I was like, there's no
Yeah.
way that it's like Marvel because I would have heard about it.
Because apparently he
it
was
would
like
be everywhere.
he was affiliated with some of the Sony movies and like an unofficial advisor role, like even Venom apparently, and he won't be
Oh,
doing that
boy.
anymore.
Yeah, understandably so.
Yeah, there's only so
So,
much one can do.
Now, the final piece of the puzzle is that it comes down to who is being greedy here, right? That's what everybody keeps arguing about on Twitter. Is Disney's just being greedy? They want all this money and stuff. I think it's safe to say that both companies
No.
want money, obviously.
I
But when
think
it
it's more
comes-
Sony.
But when it comes to who's actually making, the decision here to ruin this partnership because they want a bigger profit share, I would argue that it has to be Sony. Because they're not pulling the weight that warrants 95% of the profits.
Yeah, I guess
Also-
also like
Also, now I've seen several articles that have reported this. I haven't looked into the sources very, thoroughly, but I saw some people mentioning it in chat too, so I figured I'd mention it here too. There were talks that apparently Disney lowered their offer from 50-50 to 70-30, where they would take 30%. And Sony also rejected that offer as well.
Boy,
yeah, okay. See,
Boy.
like I would be like a little. I'm signing with Sony being the greedy. Well, they're both greedy, but more greedy because even when they offered to pay, like when they said we'll half and half it, where Marvel was gonna like produce and invest 50-50 with Sony, at that point, like and then they put that down, like you said, supposedly. Then yeah, that definitely seems like Sony is stubborn, like completely like not moving about how this deal is going.
essentially.
And the way it
That's the
is,
vibe.
because it's in their favor massively.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's definitely. I'm not a fan of Disney, but I will say that is a bit much. Like 5% to 95% is a bit much. Like that's pretty bad.
I can't imagine anyone ever agreeing to any kind of partnership where you are only making 5% and someone else is making 95.
They wouldn't have, but they were desperate.
Exactly. That was my point.
Yeah.
The only reason that this split happened the way it happened to begin with was because they were desperate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be here if they hadn't. It was a sacrifice they had to make, but now it's coming back and haunting them a little bit, especially
Oh,
the
yeah.
fact that Spider-Man, from what I've heard, Spider-Man 2 is very, very, very good.
Far
Oh,
from
yeah.
home. It is the
I
best.
need to
in my
watch them
opinion.
at some point.
Let's do it.
It's far
But
from worst.
yeah, that definitely is heartbreaking, both for the studio and the people on the ground too, especially like this penultimate movie, which is like, it's all trilogy stuff, and
Feel bad
it's
for
just
Tom
gonna be
Holland.
left on this. It's gonna be left on this like cliffhanger,
I mean,
Yep.
and
if
it
you,
will never be
it's
answered.
gonna be left for on the cliffhanger if you are one of the people who cares about Marvel continuity. Like they're gonna follow up on the cliffhanger, but whether you accept that as canon or not, if they just stop mentioning the Avenger characters and whatnot, that's gonna be your own personal perspective. Because there are people who will be able to look at it and be like, all right, I can blur my eyes and accept this. And then there are the people
Well,
who will be like,
frankly-
no, this is not the Spider-Man that I was watching or following.
Well, if we take what Var said about the whole merchandise thing, the reason why Disney was putting extra effort into this is because the merchandise related part of this deal. So if it's on the other side, Sony, they're just gonna do another Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man.
Probably.
Basically, they'll
That's what
half-heart it.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. That's why I don't like this. That's
Yeah.
why I hate the fact that Sony's got controls again. Because, like, listen, we got Spider-Verse, right? Everybody wants to point to Spider-Verse and say, like, I mean, listen, if we get more Spider-Verse, then whatever. Disney sucks. I like Spider-Verse more
There's
anyway.
already going to be more Spider-Verse.
But
First
yeah.
of all, it's independent of this live action deal.
Yeah, one, yes, exactly. It's independent of all of this. We're going to get it regardless. Two, Spider-Verse doesn't make up for the fact that we got 4 crappy Spider-Man movies back to back in a Venom movie. It's like people just forgot.
Venom.
It's like people just forgot that Sony has screwed up Spider-Man 4-5 times.
Yeah, it's Sony isn't responsible for $1.11 billion globally. That's not on them. It's on Marvel. It's on Marvel Studios doing an excellent job, not only with the movie, but with his integration into a larger, more well-sustained
Yeah.
universe.
And that's why you can point to Marvel and say they had something to do with the success of the MCU movies. It comes down to the director as well. But Marvel played a role. Spider-Verse, at what point do you credit Sony for that success versus the writers and the directors making an independent, self-contained animated movie? It's like,
I was gonna say, I feel like Spider-Verse was taking a risk, and because of that, because of the fact it was this uniquely animated movie, they wanted to make sure that this movie was at the best quality possible, and lots of care and caution was put into it. With live action, and you'll find this with live action, there is so much less thought put into everything because you're not on your butt animating for hours. You literally grab a camera. Like I'm kind of like I'm simplifying it a little bit. It's not that simple, but in comparison to the amount of hard work that goes into animating something for an animated movie in comparison to live action, yeah, you have to make sure that you are doing what is right the first time. You don't want to go back and do 7 hours worth of animating all over again because somebody changed the script or something. Like, yeah, that's just kind of like, that's why with a lot of animated movies there is a lot of depth, because you have to sit there for hours doing this picture. So while you're at it, you might as well just add, a couple things here and there, a couple bits of meanings and things like that. I really don't want to put down live action just because, like, there is a lot of hard work that's put into live action.
I get it. That point you made about the
garbage.
script was that's very I think key. They had to be very careful with that film, and people who,
and it's not animated like in the traditional way. Like, it's a very unique style that could have flopped like pretty bad, but because like it was done so carefully, and because it was just, there's a bit of luck there because people really liked the style. Now if people didn't like the style, the movie would have flopped probably.
Yeah,
it would have been like a pop culture thing later on where people like will have a
Cult
have
classic.
a cult following.
Yeah.
That's it, sorry, mixed up my words. But that would be like where people like, you got to look past the animated style and like see what it is from a story and all these not so visual things. But fortunately people did like the style, so therefore we're lucky in that way. But yeah,
Even with all of that work and effort and time and care that went into Spider-Verse, I got some harsh news for anyone who's a massive fan of it. It is the lowest grossing Spider-Man movie, and it isn't even close. 375 million worldwide. The second lowest is Amazing Spider-Man 2 at 709 million worldwide.
boy.
That's
sad.
how, that is a huge gap, and Sony had everything to do with it. Don't get me wrong. Spider-Verse is a great movie. It is easily the best Sony Spider-Man movie, and it is one of the best Spider-Man movies, period. But still,
You
despite
You
that,
can't judge to me a standalone, unique animated movie written by prolific, well-known animated movie people, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who I 100% attribute the success of that movie's story to, and equate that and say because that was good, this must mean that the live action cinematic universe expansion of movies must also be good. They are not comparable. They are two separate things. And the proof is in the pudding. You don't have to extrapolate some hypothetical, just look at the difference. Spider-Verse and Venom released in what, like a year of each other?
not even. They released the same year, I believe.
Yeah.
Not even. And
They're months apart.
they both represent the vision for the future because I think we recently found out. I
2
forget if
months.
this was.
Venom came
Yeah.
out in October. Spider-Verse came out in December.
Yeah, so the production pipeline's pretty much the same. The direction from on high from corporate. Like, I don't know if this is 100% confirmed. There was a rumor a while back that I do believe that Tom Holland actually filmed a Venom cameo, and Marvel forced them to cut it because obviously that would have broken their cinematic universe thing. But I think it should be painfully clear that Sony intended to rope Spider-Man in whatever way they could into this story. So judge Venom as the quality of what you are to be looking forward to with your Black Cat movie and your Craven the Hunter movie
And your
and
Aunt
Sinister
May
Six movie. Aunt May movie, the secret agent, that was the thing that was planning. Spider-Verse is an anomaly, and it's a cool thing, and there's gonna be more of that. But the people who make it aren't the same. Like, they're not the same writers. They're not the same directors. They're not the same. They do not have the same vision for this universe. Stop it.
yeah,
It's
no.
like saying Marvel's making this What If miniseries where Peggy Carter becomes Captain America, and because that might be good, that obviously means that Falcon and the Winter Soldier is gonna be good, and Falcon's gonna be like a great Captain America. It's like, no, they have nothing to do with one another.
Yeah, no, it's
Or because
disconnected.
Runaways is good, that means I'm really excited for the Eternals.
Yeah, no, it's a
there's-
false
there's-
equivalency.
There's no correlation.
Yeah, and easily, if Sony takes Spider-Man back, you will get lower quality films. Without a shadow of a doubt. Without a shadow of a doubt. And I understand that Venom is a divisive film. Some people really like it. Some people really don't. I'm super lukewarm on it. I don't think it was a particularly good movie. I don't think it was a horrendously bad one. But it's nowhere near the quality of either Spider-Verse, Far From Home, or Homecoming. Not
And
even.
Venom.
Nope. Nope. Don't do this.
Man, just a hardcore Venom advocate.
Dude, it's hilarious.
It's certainly an entertaining movie, but I don't know if I'd call it a good one.
Well,
So
yeah.
that is the reality we're looking at right now. Unless you truly do believe that negotiations are still ongoing, at which point maybe something
Which I don't.
will change. Maybe we'll have egg on our faces because we'll release this podcast, and then like a day later they'll be like, "Hey boys, we reached the deal."
Yeah. I mean, like, I highly doubt it. Well, I mean, that would be the best case scenario if that happens, but I don't think it's gonna happen. And if it
Feel what
doesn't,
the sale.
the best case scenario is that the next Spider-Man film happens to be pretty good. Which, I mean, listen, I hope it's good. I don't want it to suck. But even if it's the best Spider-Man film ever, the knowledge of it not connecting to any of the threads that started it
It's
gonna
gonna
be
be bizarre. Like
it's gonna be hanging there no matter what.
It would not be as bad if they, and I'm not saying I want this. It wouldn't be as bad if they pulled a complete like reboot again, and they got another actor in and just started it over. But the fact that it is the same one that we have been seeing, yet it won't have that same continuity, is weird. And it's gonna create this complete dissociation when you watch it, because how are you even supposed to watch it and like judge it on its quality when both the first and the second acts of the trilogy are basically non-canon to this new thing. How can you even judge something on those merits?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I can't imagine it's gonna be easy to, unless you just don't care. If you're one of those people who can just suspend your disbelief for continuity, you'll be fine. And I mean, I can do that to a point. I've pretty much had to with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is a remarkably similar situation. Because they started off with cameos from a bunch of Marvel people, and then they just dried up, and they never showed up again. And you have to wonder why Nick Fury isn't helping in season 7. So it's just one of those things you have to suspend your disbelief with, but it sucks, and it sucks that it's happened after such a pivotal time in the story. So that's pretty much all for that.
Wow. I mean, it's just such a shame, really. Like, I mean, I didn't even watch the movies, but I'm still mad. Like that. It could have been complete.
I
Yeah.
appreciate your
If they just-
compassion.
Yes, your empathy or
Yeah,
sympathy,
Thank you, Flash.
rather.
I mean,
I
like,
cannot believe you. I can't help you out of this one.
Your sympathy.
I feel like it sucks no matter like what the movie's about. You know, like people
Yeah.
obviously really care about this thing, and it sucks that it's kind of been ruined by some stupid business politics that you have no control over whatsoever.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's annoying,
Look on the bright
especially
side.
when you're really invested in it. You know.
We can get Sinister 6.
Like all those movies that we could have gotten, but then the business goes bankrupt and you'll never see it.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow.
Pretty much.
But yeah.
It's a shame, but that's pretty much all for our discussion this time. I think there's not really much else we can go from here for now.
Yeah.
It's been a time. I love parentheses. We told the story we wanted to tell. Kevin Feige. Far From Home ends with Spider-Man will return at the end of the credits. Obviously not. Poor Feige. Yep. That's essentially what it is. Essentially what it is. But for now, I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap up this week's TTV podcast, unless anyone has anything else they'd like to weigh in on.
LJ Bot,
chat.
what do you think of Spider-Man? I don't have LJ Bot working.
LJ Bot, what do you think?
I'm just gonna click all of them and see which one works. Okay, so I've clicked all of them, and if in like 2 minutes it starts just going crazy, that's why.
No.
Oh
no.
my, Matt's in. Oh my, no.
Oh my god! No.
I think you have to restart the bot to do it, because usually it'll remove your reaction when it's successful.
Bah humbug.
Man, this bot sucks.
Hey,
Yeah.
we're making some progress.
Thank you, Var. I appreciate you.
I appreciate it. All right. Well, thank you for listening to today's episode of the TTV podcast. Today's patron shout out is going to go to
Someone active, probably.
I want to do someone in the call.
Someone in the call.
I'll do Voravax, the returning Voravax.
Yeah.
Gone after months of
Hey.
inactivity.
That's so.
He's risen from the ashes.
You didn't even
Play Destiny
Play
with
notice.
me
World of
again.
Warcraft Classic with me. Oh yeah.
You didn't even notice that Sakota the Legend
And
joined.
we got Sakota who joined us.
Okay, that is fair. Double shout out to Sakota as well. Thank you, and I hope
Got
you
him
win
on
the
mid.
Overwatch contest. I'm pulling for you.
Yeah, good luck.
All right. Go ahead and cue the outro music.
All right, get ready, guys. All right, get ready. It's quieter.
Freaking finally.
I love it. It's almost a little too quiet.
Oh, do not start. I tested it earlier. Get us out of here.
It is a little on the quieter side, but it's not that bad.
I'm LJ.
All right. I'm mess up.
I'm Bar.
I'm LJ.
I'm Envy.
And I'm Fluffy.
And thank you, everyone.
I'm
We'll see
LJ.
you all. There it is.
I just pressed it.
We will see y'all next week.
I'm LJ.
Thank you, LJ Bot.
I'm LJ. Oh, sorry, no, that's just me.
See you guys.
See ya.